I am Jayanto Chatterjee from IIT Kanpur. As you know, we are in a 4 weeks set of sessions on management of field sales. Today is our second session. And as you see on the screen, I have put forward a recap of where we ended yesterday. That today, good sales process, an efficient sales process, an effective sales process is based on trust. Trust leading to relationship. So today's sales process is not conning the customer, not tricking the customer, because today the user has enormous power because all customers are connected to the large marketplace. It's connected to the society at large, 24 hours, 7 days, 365 days in a year, through the different forum, through the whole web of social media. And therefore, good relationship, trust-based relationship driven sales creates repeat sales. And as the diagram shows, that the repeat sale is so important because it contributes to the gain, contributes to the profit generation in an ethical manner by reducing cost of sales. So, if you are really giving good value through your bundle of goods and services, by transferring a set of values that are targeted to the customer's real needs, then we have a situation where we have a long relationship, and as you see, the length of partnership, which is on the x-axis, creates higher and higher build-up on the y-axis, which means successive sales leads to a successive profit stream. So our course, based on this understanding, will have 4 parts which will be delivered over the 4 weeks. So our first week will be focused on understanding what our customers' value needs. And in the second part, we will go deeper into the process of creating a package of values. And the third set will be how to communicate, how to establish a deeper understanding on the customer's part of the real set of benefits that you are bringing to the table. So from the communication to the final delivery of the value proposition. This is the sales process of today in 21st century. And we will expand on each one of these blocks. And of course, you will be also referring to the textbooks and the reference material that I have mentioned and is there in your course outline on the web. And to conclude what I was discussing yesterday, that the fountainhead of sales today is relationship. So a relationship-driven strategy is a well thought out plan for establishing, building, maintaining quality relationship, and quality relationship can only be created if the sales process is ethical. It's an integrated systems approach, and we will understand all of that over different blocks. Okay, the slide that you now see at the back actually explains the concept of relationship, that what are the different building blocks of relationship that I was talking about, by a research-based diagnostics. This was actually published, as you can see, in 2002. It actually shows the different elements of customers' complaint about the salespeople and the sales process. This came from a research during the 90s, and it shows that most of the customers complain, a large number of customers complain, that the salesperson does not understand our business. The salesperson does not even know his or her own product well enough and how it can meet the customer's requirements and the different levels of functionalities that are built into the product. So inadequate product knowledge was another major complaint. The lack of response, fast response, effective response, was the next level of complaint. Not listening well enough and not being an advocate of customers' real needs were the other elements of the complaint. Which means that if we are wanting to create a trust-based, trust-driven, relationship-oriented sales process that is needed today, these are the things that you have to do as a salesperson. You have to, first of all, understand deeply customers' business, because your success will come by creating customer success. You must know your own products, its strengths and weaknesses in relation to the customer's need. So it can be even a consumer product. So if you are looking at edible oil, or you are looking at some kind of, say, rice, you have to understand the attributes of your products, not only as printed on the package, but also how it affects the customer in the long run. And of course, if you take B2B type of products, industrial type of products, this understanding of the impact of your product and your goods and services today and going forward in the customer's manufacturing process or customer's value delivery process is very important. So your value delivery process must synchronize with the customer's value delivery process, must contribute it to the extent that it actually becomes a good driver of customers' success in the marketplace. And a relationship-oriented sales process must be very responsive, effectively responsive in terms of time as well as in terms of resolution of the problem. And all that can only come from a very deep ability to listen, to understand, and to deliver. And meet the last part in the confidence building, in the trust building process is that the customer must ultimately feel that you are his or her person, advocate, that you are actually protecting as a salesperson the customer's interest in front of your organization. So you are as much part of the customer organization, as much part of customers' responsibility towards his or her organization. So you must put your customer's interest first before, in a way, you look at your organization's interest, because of the strategic understanding that your organization's real success can only emerge out of customer success. So customer's need comes first. So when we say customer comes first, what we mean is understanding of customers' needs, real needs, tangible needs as well as intangible needs. That understanding must come first, and that must drive everything else. That's the point. To explain it a little bit more, you please look at this chart. It is taken, most textbooks will have a similar chart, that the products as shown on the column on the left, extreme left, the products can be for consumption. That means, it's something like a food product or most of the staple products, or it can be some kind of, special product or shopping product like a shirt or this table and chair and so on. So it can be for immediate consumption. It can be for incorporation into something that the customer is making, or incorporation into, so an edible oil, for example, is something that is consumed, but by incorporating it in the process of cooking at the customer's end. And sometimes the customer may be buying it for resale as a subsystem or as an auxiliary to his or her final delivery to his or her customer's customer. And what the customer is delivering to customer's customer, your delivery can be a subsystem of that. So immediate consumption, whatever you are selling can be for immediate consumption by the consumer or customer himself or herself. It can be something that will be incorporated in the customer's production process or manufacturing process or consumption process, or it can be something that will be resold by the customer as either as an auxiliary or as an integral part. And that makes different types of, that creates different types of sales occasions. So for example, Oriflame selling fragrance to lady consumers, that is something for immediate consumption. So that will have a different kind of sales process. And you have to understand this connection and accordingly tailor your sales process. On the other hand, Xerox selling a photocopier to say a car manufacturer like Maruti, that's also for consumption, for use day in and day out, but it's to a manufacturer customer. So the customers are therefore, like the products are of different types, they are for either consumption or incorporation or resale as shown on the left column. But the customers are of different types. They can be consumers, private consumers, they can be manufacturers, they can be intermediaries, or they can be institutions like say IIT or other types of educational institutes, social institutes. And therefore, each of the type of product for each of the type of customer create a different set of sales conditions and needs a tailored sales process. So as you can see, it's a 3 by 4 matrix, and therefore we have 12 blocks situation, of which the 4 on top and 3 in the next level, these 7 are the applicable and important sales situations, which we will explore more. At this stage, I must mention that you must look at each one of these situations, understand the nature of each type of customer, and generate more examples in your mind for a deeper understanding of this particular chart. Once you understand these different sales occasions, you will appreciate better the difference between transaction selling and relationship selling. Transaction selling is the older style of selling, something that is there today but highly de-emphasized. So earlier the sales process was somehow make the consumer buy some goods or some service, and the salesperson was then chasing the next sale. That concept is therefore primarily driven by getting more and more customers, getting new accounts, get the order and get out, and somehow manipulate the price and the understanding and the features and make the sale happen. And the focus was very short term, and one tried to sell anything to any person, right? These are concepts which are almost obsolete today. To some extent, there will be the need of getting new accounts. But what we feel is that in today's relationship-based selling, your new account will be a result of effectively retaining your existing customer, because that customer will become your co-marketer. That customer will become your advocate, and will make further sales happen. So on the right hand side, we have retention as a primary driver as opposed to acquisition of new customers. So it doesn't mean that we no longer need new customers. What we are saying is that it is more gainful to get more sales, repeat sales from the existing customer, and B, acquisition of new customer must be a result of good retention of existing customer. Because if you are preferred supplier to a particular industry, to a particular class of consumer, that by referral, that through the social media buzz, that through different forms of communication from the customer to other customers, will create better and better sales build up. And this kind of sales is obviously, because your cost of sales then becomes much lower, because something that you would have been done by your salesperson is now being done by your customer. And repeat sales is always more cost effective from the marketer's or salesperson point of view. So your price, the same price, will lead to better profit if your cost of sales is down, because you are getting the next sale either through retention or through advocacy. So focus is not on today's profit, but profit over the life cycle of the product life cycle of the goods and service package. And also it becomes very important of what we call account management. This today's accounts, as well as, that means today's customers, and that as a pathway to potential accounts, future customers, is a very effective and in many ways a very contemporary, more virtuous approach to this value exchange process, sales process. So in today's situation, we have these 6 categories of sales profiles. We have consultative sellers. I discussed it over the last few slides in yesterday's session as well as in today's session, what consultative selling means. It fundamentally means understanding the customer's need to the extent that customer seeks you out to get your opinion as to the best way to solve his or her problem. So that's just like we look forward to a consultant for good advice. The customer must develop that trust that the customer will seek your advice because the customer considers you as an expert. So as you see here, relationship-oriented consultative selling also needs expertise. You must be respected as an expert of not only your products, but how your product fits into the overall need of the customer, which means that you must be also an expert of customers' business process. So if you are selling, say, a crusher to a cement plant, you should not only understand all the functionalities of your crusher, how it compares with the crushers available from other sellers, but you also must understand your customer, that is the cement plant's needs and long-term paradigm of success, and how your crusher or conveyor belt or any other equipment will contribute to the cement plant's long-term success. And this need of understanding the customer process in depth obviously brings up this concept of key account selling, which means that today's sales is very focused, it's customized, it's matched with that target segment's particular sets of needs. And therefore, as a corollary, one can say it is very tough in today's selling process to be everything to everybody. But the approach more is to be everything to somebody. So you must therefore have not an acquisition-oriented strategy, but a retention-oriented strategy by nurturing a customer over a long period of time. And obviously that means that this entails that you must carefully select your customers and focus on such customers who create a long-term stream of values through repeat purchases and so on, or add-on purchases or enhancements, concepts where in terms of sales we call them upselling or complementary selling and so on. And of course, when it comes to a new business, that means not sort of a cement plant which is an existing traditional type of customer, but suppose you are actually a seller to a new type of industry, very fast moving industry, say semiconductor manufacturer, or you are selling something to today's what we call millennial generation consumers, where their tastes and needs evolve very fast. In that situation, sometimes you may need the salespersons playing different roles. There can be one role which is an evangelizing role. That means you are preaching. You are not, that part of your sales team will comprise of persons who are not looking for immediate order booking, but they are actually creating a bigger picture in front of the customer, where the customer's long-term needs and your value package long-term opportunities or potential, the long-term potential of your product, of your goods and services are matched to customers' long-term needs. And this is done as a method, as a exchange of knowledge, not necessarily geared to the next order booking. But as you can immediately see, this evangelizing or missionary approach to sales creates the possibility of the next sale, which actually which will bring bigger and bigger opportunities for you going forward. So a successful salesperson creates superlative capabilities that are highly appreciated, and at the core of this is this complexity or role conflict, or to an extent the sales management paradox. And I will talk about this ambiguity, paradox, role conflict and tension arising out of that as all part of the salesperson's everyday management. But that will come in future sessions. Thank you for today.